Are you tired of websites that have been Frankenstein together?
Oh, my website is so slow and creaky.
Every time I use the search bar, it just returns Abby Normal over and over again.
Becky's sister company, the Concept Spot, holds the secret to life itself and can create new life from nothing. In fact, we've been giving life to highly functional websites for the last 25 years using premium parts we swear we didn't salvage from graveyards.
Ooh, check out that header image. Instead of going, my new website purrs.
Need a blog? The Concept Spot can do that. Want an online store? We can do that too.
We build our sites from the cellular level. No reused templates or discarded body parts here, so we can make your site do whatever you want and look however you want.
It's gorgeous! I can't even see the stitches.
We can also resurrect your dead website if rigor mortis has set in.
Oh, it's like a new man.
If you think Homespun Haints is frighteningly genius, you should see our websites. Let your favorite ghoulish gals, Becky and Diana, build you a monstrous website that will wreak havoc on the internet for years to come.
Visit theconceptspot.com for more information.
It's live! It's live! When the curtain goes up and the magician steps out, the sleight of hand begins. Even as you watch wonders unfold before you, your brain keeps telling you it's all a trick. It's not real magic. Or is it? Because magic can be any unexplainable feat of spectacle. Aren't the sensations you feel when you witness something awe-inspiring a form of magic? Don't we all have the capacity within us not just to experience magic, but to make it as well? Magician and artist Joe LeDoux brings magic to life through multiple means, and talking to him today will make you look at the world a little bit differently. And, of course, he has a ghost story. Prepare to be amazed today on Homespun Haints. Hello, Hainted Loves. Welcome to 2025. Aren't you excited?
I'm excited.
Really?
Also, I'm Diana.
Oh, yeah. Hi, I'm Becky. You should know this by now.
It's season 7. Surely you know.
It's season 7. Yes. We didn't really have a break other than Thanksgiving.
We kind of half-assed it for a couple weeks instead of taking time off.
And today we're really thrilled to bring on Joe LeDoux, who is a magician in so many ways.
A magical artist.
He's pretty cool. The email he sent me, I was actually a little confused at first when he reached out to us, Diana, because he was like, hi, I conjured aliens and it was written up in the newspaper. And I was like, who is this guy? What?
Dude, is that what? I didn't read the email. Wow, he conjured aliens.
I was like, okay, well, let's see what this guy has to say. And he's a really amazing guest. You'll hear what he means. He's going to talk about it on the show.
It's not as woo as you think it is, but it is woo. So
yeah,
you'll love
but
it.
in a way that you will be inspired by.
I did get to have one fun experience while we were kind of slacking for the last couple of weeks.
Oh.
I was organizing old photos. I just found this school portrait the other day.
Oh my God, you're such a Wednesday Addams in that dress. Like little Victorian goth.
That's how I dress, dude. I could not stand jeans and t-shirts. Ugh. And there's a self-portrait that I drew.
Your skills have improved remarkably since then.
You think so? Really? I feel like I'm about the same.
But you did a self-portrait of yourself on a broom.
On a broom flying in front of the moon.
Oh, that's the moon!
That's the moon. Can't you tell?
I can now. This just speaks volumes about you.
As a bitty?
If you believe that we are born with knowledge of past lives that we slowly lose as we get older.
Ooh, probably.
Then you were born with the knowledge that you're actually a witch that flies in front of the moon.
I was very resentful from a really young age to have been born into a new body. I would have full-on conversations with the wall, too, around that age, 1 to 2.
That's right.
Yeah.
All the invisible people that you could see.
All the invisible people.
Okay, so that drawing that you did when you were very young, that just fits in.
Oh, yeah. I'm still more scared of the dolls.
If you're just new to the show and you don't know about this, my mother has a set of dolls that my grandmother made of myself and my sister. They kind of look the same. Like, they're both pretty hideous. Like, they look like knockoff Cabbage Patch dolls.
They do look Cabbage Patchy.
But they're around too much radiation, so they kind of like
Yeah.
morphed into these weird mutant Cabbage Patch dolls. The only way to really tell them apart is like one has brown hair and one has blonde hair, because my sister is blonde. And my mom found these things a couple years ago, and she poses them and has them read like weird books. Like, one was The Mad Scientist, like how to poison your enemies or something. And she's got them like holding beakers. And there's another one where they're like, she's got their hands in front of their eyes, like, oh, and they're reading The Joy of Sex. Like, she has so much fun with this, man. I can't wait till I retire. So
You're going to make a doll of each of your children and put them into strange scenarios.
My kids have made it very clear they never want me to do that. They're like, that's the creepiest damn thing. And I'm like, I know.
That was your first mistake. You didn't make it clear before it happened, and now it's too late.
Right.
Anybody out there with a mom young enough to not have made this mistake yet, have that conversation sooner than you think you need to.
Don't make dolls of your kids. And if you read the first book in our Patreon,
don't make puppets of your kids either. Also dangerous. Very high propensity for paranormal activity.
If you haven't read that book, we're talking about How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. We read it for our very first, I think it was our first book club book for the Homespun Hates Patreon book club. Yeah. Man, that book just brought back so many memories from my childhood. And if that happened to you too, welcome, because you're just as messed up as us. And you probably will sort through your old bins of pictures and find yourself portraying yourself as
or a puppet.
Or a witch.
Hopefully not a puppet. I read that book, How to Sell a Haunted House. It was terrifying.
It was.
If you want to read that book or any of our other book club books and then hop on a Zoom call with the two of us and discuss it live in a small group, well, you can do that for free. Just go to patreon.com/homespunhaints, join at our free tier, and you can get access to book club and other things. And if you join at a paid tier, you get commercial-free content of all of our regular episodes. And if you're not a member of our Patreon, you get to watch these commercials.
Oh man, I had a rough day.
What happened, honey?
I was out with the guys and they said I wasn't spooky enough.
Oh, honey, how could they say that to you? You're hella spooky.
You think so?
Of course. After all, you came up with the ectoplasm being ghost jizz theory, and you've been scratched by more horny ghosts than anyone else I know.
Well, I suppose you're right.
But if you're really worried about it, I have just the thing.
Oh, wow! A Spooky AF t-shirt?
That's right. Our Spooky AF line comes in shirt, sweatshirt, pillow, and even a high-quality mug.
Man, those are super awesome, especially for something with profanity on it.
What's even better, all these items were hand-lettered exclusively for Homespun Hates by world-renowned calligrapher Nikki Malik.
Holy ghostly cannoli, that's amazing.
From now on, whenever you brandish your Spooky AF gear, no one will accuse you of being boring.
Yeah, I'm Spooky AF.
Visit homespunhates.com for all Spooky AF merchandise.
Today on the show, we have Joe LeDoux, who is a magical artist and so many more things. I think I just see an orb. Can you reveal yourself to us?
Hi, everyone. My name's Joe LeDoux, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Joe, you introduce yourself as a magical artist, but you do so many things. That does encompass what you do, but it also doesn't describe everything you do. And I'm going to say that when you first reached out to us and you described everything you do, My first thought was like, really? Like, you do magic, you do skateboarding, you have gallery shows, you have YouTube. You are also very knowledgeable about some extraterrestrial things as well. How would you describe your art?
Well, let's start with a quick demonstration.
Oh,
nice.
Yes. Nickels on the eyes.
A little bit of magic to brighten your day. And I would describe my art or what I do as I call myself a magical artist, and I think it's pretty important to sort of make the distinction between entertainment and art. I had been an entertainer for a lot of my life, and keep in mind I went to mass art, so even when I was young, I wanted to be an artist, and I went to school to be an artist, but I always had this love of magic. So I went to school for animation because there wasn't magic schools.
Right.
And then I moved out into LA, and there's the quote, "When the student is ready, the teacher appears." And I just felt lost out there trying to be a screenwriter, trying to get into animation. And I wrote to my magic teacher. I had seen him on TV. His name was Jeff McBride, and just said, "I love magic. I'm out here feeling lost." And he's like, "Be my guest at the Magic Castle." And when I met Jeff McBride and saw him perform, it just rekindled my love for magic. And I just decided that I was going to do magic. Well, I started doing it as an entertainment. I started doing kids' birthday parties, corporate gigs. I performed with LeGrand David, which had the Guinness World Record for the longest running magic show in the world. I just performed with them one summer, but it was just a really big opportunity for me to be on this stage. But I would just say yes to everything. And then I just hit this point in my life where I was going to be doing a magic show at a burlesque show. And there was a big snowstorm, and they canceled my show. And I remember just going, yes. And I was just like so happy that my show got canceled. And my girlfriend, Ashley, goes, "Why are you happy that your gig got canceled?" And I'm like, you know what? I got to rethink what I'm doing. I think that I'm doing this too much as an entertainment, and I think I'm an artist. And I think there's a really great quote by Alan Moore, the guy that wrote Watchmen, and he's also a ceremonial magician. And it goes something like, an entertainer gives you what you want, but an artist gives you what you need. And if you knew what you needed, you wouldn't be in the audience, you would be the artist. And I love that quote because I think that a lot of times when I was young, I would go to concerts to fill up with ecstasy and just searching for just something more than this mundane life. I don't really have this drive to go to that many shows or things. Like, I just want to be at home painting. It's like, I love performing. And, my magic teacher, Jeff McBride, told me that I can't give a gift that I don't have. And he's like, a magician that doesn't believe in magic is like a doctor that doesn't believe in medicine. And he sent me out to study with real shamans so that I could learn real magic and then have magical experiences and then have something really to transform myself and then transform the audience. So I started just doing my magic and art galleries, and instead of trying to blow the audience away, I try and pull and connect from the heart and have my paintings up, and I look at the way that a brush is moving and making something appear on canvas is like a wand. You're moving this thing around. Where does your consciousness come from? And then all of a sudden this image appears. And, speaking of Crowley, he said, magic is manifesting thy will. And to do something like that, I have my shows in art galleries, and my paintings are part of my magic. And then I tell stories about my life while I do magic. So it's not just like a simple trick. It's sort of like a musician telling a story and doing a piece of sleight of hand around that story. So it's this art as magic experience in artistic spaces. I have a book called The Death and Resurrection Show, and it's about how the showmen today were like the shaman of yesterday. Showman and shaman. And, you think about like the early shamans where maybe somebody would be in a tent and there would be people secretly outside shaking it, and they might have like some fire flickering or candles and some drawings inside the tent to, make them look like they're moving. And they would be really good at ventriloquism to make animal sounds. And it wasn't that they didn't believe in the magic, but they wanted to be able to let you experience it. So it was, sometimes they would even put feathers in their mouth and bite their inside of their mouth to get the feathers bloody, and then do like suck on the wound and spit these bloody feathers out where you were injured. And it's not that they didn't believe it would heal you, but it would get the placebo in your mind to think that it had been removed from you, but spiritually they actually would see it being removed from you too and believed it. And it's just such an interesting way of thinking about magic. The book talks about that sort of tent and the lights and the stuff to kind of being the concert stage with the flickering psychedelic lights and the otherworldly character up there singing their healing songs on the stage. It's fascinating stuff.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about you and what your performances are. So you mentioned, doing the magic in the galleries. You also mentioned skateboarding earlier. So tell us a little bit how that plays into what you do.
Okay, so all of the tricks that I do on my skateboard are magic tricks. So like I'll ride and then I'll step off and make the board float and then kind of jump back on it. Or I'll catch like a fingerboard out of the air and then turn it into like a bigger board and then jump on that and ride it. Or like kind of like jump on a regular size one, spin around, catch a small one out of the air and make that do like a trick on the board, like this microcosm, macrocosm thing. So I have 3 videos on YouTube. Sometimes like I actually ride the skateboards like broomsticks and like hover on them. That's in one of the skateboard videos. I also wrote a book called The Magic of Skateboarding. It's a zine, and it talks about how Polynesian chiefs in like Hawaii would pray to like conjure the waves, and the best surfers were like the highest chiefs, and they would be the ones that could like ride the waves out the longest, and how that sort of evolved into skateboarding, kind of going back to the roots of it in this magical framework. And then talking about how when I think Rodney Mullen invented the kickflip, when people were like kicking the board and flipping it like that, when people first saw that, they didn't know how it was flipping. No one had ever seen that before. So they called it a magic flip when it was first invented.
So speaking of conjuring, you have some really interesting stories about things that you have conjured, correct?
Oh, okay. So the spell that you're referring to, I was standing on a bridge in Boston, and I was just looking at the water. It was the Mass Ave Bridge. And I noticed a sign on the bridge, and it said Houdini, and this is where Houdini jumped off the bridge. And I'm like, what? So I started to research it, and I found out that he was like handcuffed and jumped off this bridge into the water. And I was sort of looking at the water, and it didn't look like that far of a jump. I mean, I'm sure it would hurt if you jumped, but it was really the showmanship that just really, really set in with me, of just how he was making this thing just be so much bigger than it was, just really getting out of handcuffs underwater. And I'm like, this is just like a brilliant way of staging something. And I was like, I want to do something big. And there's this kind of saying in magic in Vegas that like, professional magicians do big tricks. And I started to come up with a couple ideas. One of them was making a mermaid appear at Revere Beach. And it just really, really was not working for me. And then I thought, I love Alan Moore. I love how he thought of, he talks about how a book of ancient magic spells is called a grimoire, and that's where the word grammar comes from, and that to write is just simply spelling, and that's what casting a spell is. So I'm just sort of like, walking around Boston, listening to these interesting philosophical magicians that I love, and these other sort of magicians with a C, not a K, talking about, doing big tricks. So I came up with this idea that I wanted to cast a spell over Boston, and I would call it, because it was going to be for 1 month, for the month of June, and it was in 2013, that I would call it Fortune Teller 2013, because it was for June, so it was for June Teller. Sort of a play on words. And I wrote this piece of poetry. I actually have it here. You can kind of describe to the people that are listening audio, what it looks like.
It looks just like a grimoire on a vellum.
That is the original spell that I wrote. And I had the website put up where they put it in the newspaper as a supernatural event under the event section. And I had no idea that they were going to do that. I submitted it to the newspaper, and then I look at the event section and it, it says like entertainment, and it's just like supernatural. And I'm like, a supernatural event and a headline and an event section of a newspaper? Okay. And I for 1 month, the spell, when it was activated, claimed that when people looked up into the sky, that they would see fairies, UFOs, and sea serpents all over Boston. And I was really, really trying to rebirth these old legends. So not many people know that in 1639, right over the Muddy River, the first UFO in America was seen, and right in Boston, at the Muddy River. And I was like, well, it's not just the Red Sox. There's this one of the first UFOs in America was seen in Boston, right over the Muddy River. And we had a New England sea serpent as well that was seen around the same time, a couple of years before or after. So, and then I couldn't find any fairy sightings. So I'm like, well, maybe we'll get our first fairy sighting. So when I made the little postcards and went out and promoted it all, it said, even if it's in your imagination, if you want to make believe, write it down if it's a fairy, because, our imaginations, what we see in them is not necessarily fake. It's just a different kind of real. And I'm really into fairies as well. And a lot of I've heard some shamans talk about fairies in really interesting ways, and them being sort of an anthropomorphic essence of a plant. There's just a lot to it. So I was trying to get people to look up into the sky, report if they saw any real UFOs. Who knows if it's a comet, a drone, but something that they weren't sure what it was. And let me just say that I don't like bullshit. So I'm not into BS. I'm really, really after real magic. And I study with a lot of people that believe in real magic, and I just don't like BS. So I was like, okay, if somebody's looking up in the sky and they see a UFO, it could really be one. If somebody is looking out in the ocean, maybe it could be a real sea serpent. We know less about the ocean than I think we do about space. Mm-hmm. So I like to say, I made a little shift on the quote that we know less about the ocean than we do about space, and we know less about ourselves than we do about the ocean. I don't think we really know who we are and where we come from. And I think that, this was a really, really kind of publicity stunt, but I had my heart behind it, and I was really, really trying through the art and the poetry to get people to pay attention and maybe see something supernatural.
Did you get reports
Yeah.
What did people report back to
So
you?
on the website, somebody said that they were on their rooftop and that they saw a glowing light go by, and that they thought it was a UFO or something. Yeah. There was another experience with my girlfriend, actually, where we were hanging out in a park, and she saw we did together, actually, an insect that looked like a dragonfly, but it had these little dangling legs, and it was very fairy-like, and we're sort of oh my God, is it because of the spell? And what is it? But it wasn't a dragonfly. It had hanging these little kind of hands and these little legs and these wings. And I did a painting of it, and I said maybe it's Boston's first fairy sighting. It probably was, a type of insect, but I mean, an insect has a spirit in it, and I've never seen this type of insect. It was interesting that the spell was happening, and that was kind of part of this. We'll take it extremely serious, but we'll also have fun with it, because Ashley is we're like Scully and Mulder. She's really rational, and I'm just spacey and really into mysticism, and she's into science. So to see Ashley, she's like, whoa, that was so weird. And I've heard her talk about it in interviews she's done on just seeing that fairy. You know, there was other people that saw lights in the sky and things. You know, they would just write a couple sentences of things that they saw, but people did see stuff.
Do you feel like they were looking out for it because you had announced that you wanted to collect those stories and you had produced the spell? Or do you think they just happened to see them and then Googled and then found you?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I would have assumed that they saw the spell in the newspaper because that came out right as it started to get people to look. And then it gave my website to report it. So the reports were through my website. So I think that, but then there was another website that I think it was called UFO Stalker. It was something like that, like .com. And it was like people that just seek UFOs and reports. And there was like a bunch of reports that came in, you know, through that month. But that was like less impressive to me as the ones like through the site, but it was still interesting just to see like what was happening. And then one of my friends, this is the story I love the most. One of my friends told me that they were sitting on their roof and that they were just like looking for UFOs, but they didn't see any. And I just love that sense of wonder. It reminds me of like going fishing as a kid and like not catching anything, but having a great day. And somebody came up to me and told me they read the poem and that it made their day better. And it's just like really, really magical to see like these old legends. People came up to me and were like, I didn't know that there was a sea serpent in Boston. To get people looking again and to have some people see some things and wonder maybe one of them was a real UFO. That's just the world that I live in. It's that kind of space is just such a beautiful space to be in. And I think a lot of people are just afraid to go there.
That's one of the reasons I never got into ghost hunting. As much as people try to get us into ghost hunting every single day, people try to get us to go ghost hunting. And I'm always like, but if you're looking at the meters and the SLS cameras, you're not going to see the ghosts, right? You need to be looking with those eyes of expectation. Like, what if I do see something paranormal? And now you're watching for it, and eventually, maybe something will happen.
And I think for anybody who doesn't quite understand the purpose of art, this is like such a great example of what art really is and what it can do. I mean, you got an entire city to look up and explore and question and bring back that childhood sense of wonder. And that is the power of art. But we are a ghost story podcast, and I know you have a ghost story. So please share it.
I must have been about 6 years old, and my sister and I were playing hide and seek. So I go to the corner and I'm counting to like 10 or 30, and she runs off. And then, you know, there's the whole ready or not, here I come. And I remember running down the hallway, coming around the corner, and then I saw her run into the bathroom. So I'm like, you know, this is going to be easy. So I run into the bathroom and I don't see her. There's just like nobody in the bathroom. So I open the bathroom closet door. My mom kept like towels and stuff in there. She's not in there. I don't know why, but I opened the bathroom sink. I just thought maybe she could fit under there, and she's not under the bathroom sink. So then I think I said verbally, I know you're behind the shower curtain, and she didn't say anything. So I grabbed the curtain of the shower and I just pulled it open, and no one was there. And I just remember at that age, my heart just like dropped. It just like was like just so astonished. And then she came from the hallway into the bathroom and said, what are you doing? Who are you talking to? Oh. And I just said, I saw you go into the bathroom. I've never seen a ghost my whole life. I don't really remember what it looked like when I came around the corner. You know, there was like, it looked like the back of the hair, like a shadow-like figure. So I'm not even sure if it was my sister, but I saw a figure that looked like a girl run into the bathroom.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the only encounter you had in that house? Or were there other strange things that happened?
You know, I have a lot of memories of like my mom having like dolls and things in the bedroom, being terrified of them. And I have these like odd memories of like thinking they moved, and I tell her stuff and like she didn't want them in there. And eventually there was one I was afraid to like sleep in the room with, and she had spent a lot of money on it and they kept wanting to put it in the room with me. And then they hid it in the attic because I was like terrified of it, but I don't really remember. It's easy to have false memories. With the ghost thing, it just stuck with me so long, and I just talked about it ever since then, that it's, you know, it's there. But when you try and go back where someone's asking you, like, do you recall this or that? I feel like that's where you can get in trouble, especially as a magician. I know a lot of ways that can work to my advantage
Right.
with people recalling what I did at a show. But that's the only time definitively in my life that I saw something.
I went to a lecture on haunted dolls recently, and one thing that the person who was talking said, quote unquote, haunted dolls aren't actually haunted. They're actually portals that an entity can come in and out of. So that's why a doll might seem creepy one minute and not the next. But if that theory is true, and your mom had all of these creepy dolls, it could be something came through, realized that someone was looking for them, and decided they were going to bail and never come through again.
Now that you talk about this, and I'm thinking back on it, there was lots of times when I was young where just these crazy mystical things would happen. I remember someone coming up to me and they're like, did you see things when you were a child? Because, you know, they were just really impressed with the magic, and they sort of saw me having this kind of magical ability. And, you know, I did. Like, there wasn't necessarily ghosts, but like a lot as a child. Just really, really, you think back, I remember kind of like hanging in the closet, and when the closet shut, there was all these clothes and stuff. And I remember just like swinging, but just remember just like thinking there was like something else in there, you know, like it's like your imagination as a kid. I remember like talking about when my turtle went away, and I had to let it go after I had it as like a pet for like a few years. My parents told me to let it go, and I was like, I remember being so sad, and I probably got killed because, you know, I was feeding it in this little tank in my room, and I can't remember the determining factor, if we were moving or what happened, but they wanted me to get rid of the turtle. And a couple days later, I was just saying, like, I just want a sign that, like, the turtle's okay. And I looked out the window, and there was a turtle about the same size just walking on the street. You know, just like a lot of like, just like when I was young, and even now, you're not going to believe the story of how I got my magic wand. And this kind of stuff, these synchronicities and these kind of things happen to me all the time as a magician. I had heard the wand lore that like the wand chooses the wizard. And there's also this idea, like, are you waving the wand or is the wand waving you? So I was just using these black and white wands. And this is about when I'm in my 30s, and I'm saying, I want a wand to choose me. You know, I don't want a black and white wand. I want to have something magic speak to me, or the universe, like give me something. And my dad had just gone for a walk out into the beaver dam in the back, and we would go back there as kids, and you could walk across the water because the way that they stacked all the sticks, and it was just like a magical way to grow up. The dam broke once, and my friends and I were able to crawl like into the beaver hut and like go inside it. Like, it's like an igloo thing that kind of goes down, but it all dried up, and we were able to move some of the sticks and like get in and go up, and there's like a little haze down like on the ground, and we were in this little igloo kind of shaped thing. Cool. And it just was like, I really, really grew up in this kind of Lord of the Rings kind of like, Mount Wachusett was my backyard. There was a mountain there. And, you know, my dad would bring me for walks and grab like peppermint leaves and have me taste it. And then he would throw up those Japanese maple leaves that spin. And he would show me witches' brooms in the backyard. And he would also like grab mushrooms and squeeze them, and smoke would come out. And my dad would just show me like all this magic in nature. And I'm sitting out on the back porch, which overlooks the mountain and overlooks like the woods that goes back to the dam. And Ashley's with me. So my girlfriend can, you know, testify that this story is true. So my dad walks back, and he's coming up towards the porch, and I'm like, where'd you go? And he's like, I just went back for a little quick walk by the beaver dam. And I said, next time you go back there, do you think that you could get me like a stick that I could use as a magic wand? And he goes, do you mean like this? And he like reaches behind his back in his back pocket, and I brought it, and he pulls this out.
My.
And when,
Perfect.
when people see it, and like I have it at my shows, they're like, you have a wizard wand, but it's like, I didn't change it at all. This is all hand carved, all by them. And, you know, I tell that story sometimes when I perform, and I use the wand in my shows. And, you know, that's just the kind of world that I live in. Like, I'm always studying with shamans. I'm having magical experiences. I'm not a disbeliever. I'm just very much in between both worlds.
Oh, that is a cool story.
That is a really cool story. It was carved by beavers.
Yeah.
That is so awesome.
It's just everything about it, because of the way it's shaped or something that it holds. It has magic that's like contained in it too, which it's just far out.
Well, you are a magician, so we would love for you to perform a trick for us.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
I'm going to turn the lights down a little bit.
Ooh, get in the mood.
And, you know, it's not like my most amazing trick, but this is a trick that I just feel like is real magic. And it's really who I am. I was trying to think of like maybe what I would perform for you. And I'm going to do it for both of you. So I'm curious if either of you have ever seen a shooting star before.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Did you make wishes?
Of course.
Oh, yes.
And did they come true?
I don't remember.
Yes. Every time.
Every time. Okay. So yours did, and you're not sure if
I'm not sure.
yours did. Okay. Well, I think that setting a wish is such a magical ritual, because I tell people try and think of a wish that they believe is possible. You know, not $1 million tomorrow, but something on the growing edge. So I want you both to think of a wish right now, and you'll never have to say what it is. You can keep it to yourself. Try and think of something on the growing edge that you think you could attain this year or next year, and that maybe you're aiming for, but it's going to be difficult, but something that you really want to bring into your life. Now, inside my pocket here, I have 2 imaginary shooting stars. Hold out your hands kind of to the screen as if you're about to receive a little gift that I'm going to put down in your hand. Okay. I'm going to give you one, and I'm going to give you one. Hold them in your hands and hold them in a fist. And then right now in your mind, make your wish in your mind. And then when you're done, and then my hand right here, throw them both towards my hand on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Now watch, if I catch them, they turn into real shooting stars.
Nice.
Because magic reminds us it's possible for our dreams and wishes to become real. And these are gifts. I'm going to mail these both to you as a little gift to remind you that your wishes can come true. And when I do this live, I give them to the people right there. And these do not light up when you squeeze them or anything.
Yeah.
These are actually how they would be. It's a little magic I wanted to do for you since we're sharing this time together.
That was beautiful. Yeah.
Love that.
So for those of you who are listening and not watching, what we saw Joe do just now is put an imaginary invisible star into each of our hands. And then when we threw them back, he caught the lit stars and then opened his hand, and they were origami stars made of paper with no lights and no source of light visible in his hand.
And, you know, you can see there's nothing in my hand right now, and there's a card. And you see, it's floating towards the screen.
Is close-up magic easier or harder over Zoom?
Well, I've been doing close-up magic so much. It's interesting because I haven't done Zoom magic yet. In fact, I think this is the first podcast I've ever done.
Oh, nice.
It's my first podcast over like a video platform. So this is fun. I like pushing my comfort zone. You know, there's sort of like, do I look at the camera? You know, do I look at the screen? And I'm tempted to kind of want to watch you and see you, because that's just how I'm trained when you're with somebody. I wanted to give you something meaningful. And I love the idea that, these can fold down kind of flat.
Uh-huh. Oh, I
So
love
I
those.
can mail it to you in a little
Beautiful.
envelope, and then you can kind of push it back together.
That is so cool. Joe, tell people where they can find you.
Well, I have a show coming up in Boston at the West End Museum. It is on February 8th from 4 to 6 p.m. And I'm going to be talking about 3 pieces of my art on exhibit, and then performing magic, and also doing a slideshow on the Ashcan School and how that led me to discover the West End. And then I have a website. It's Joe, J-O-E. The last name is LeDoux, L-E-D-O-U-X like X-ray. JoeLeDoux.com. If you go there, you can, see what I do, find my social media.
Those links and the information about your upcoming performance we will include on our own website at homespunhaints.com. So for people who are finding this through our website, be sure you check those notes. Joe, this has been a wonderful, wonderful chat. We've really, really enjoyed talking to you.
Absolutely.
I just want to say thank you, Becky and Diana. And I think that the podcast you do is so professional, produced, and sounding. And I was excited to come on with 2 intelligent people and looking about how much you knew about stuff. I was just really excited because I figured we'd have a fun discussion. So thank you so much for having me.
It was fun discussion.
Yes, thank you so much for chatting with us, Joe, and for reaching out to us. Again, been listening to Joe LeDoux. You can find him at joeledoux.com. And again, we will have that link on our show notes. And I will leave it to Diana to close us out here.
Oh, nice. So, Haunted Loves, what do you think? I think if visual art is turning the unseen into the seen, perhaps magical art is turning the unimaginable into the real. Sounds like a spooky day.
Homespun Haints is hosted by Becky Kielimnik and Diana Doty, and produced by Homespun Haints Media LLC. Editing and music by Becky Kielimnik. Show notes by Diana Doty. If you have a ghost story and you'd like to be considered as a guest for this podcast, please visit our website at homespunhaints.com/submit.